Single mom's grocery list mistake revealed ex-billionaire surprises with $500K for the twins. Sarah stood at the entryway of the grocery store, her heart racing as she wrangled the twins, Emma and Noah, who were dashing down the aisle like miniature tornadoes. Breakfast at home had been chaotic, and the basket of groceries in her cart represented the delicate balance of a narrow budget. With every dollar accounted for, this week's list staples of pasta, rice, and frozen veggies reflected her commitment to get through another month. Yet, amidst all the hustle of school drop-offs and endless nurse shifts, her thoughts drifted dangerously. "Why can't I manage better?" she muttered under her breath, resentment mixing with the hum of fluorescent lights. Looking around, she couldn't help but notice parents who seemed effortlessly polished, expertly managing grocery lists while charming their children. Her chest tightened. Did they have help? A partner? Maybe a financial cushion? Unshaken, Sarah inhaled deeply and gripped the cart to refocus. But in her distracted state, she accidentally added an expensive organic cereal to her list instead of the generic brand, an innocent mistake. As she navigated the store, doubts crept in like shadows. Was she a failure for relying on coupons and discount brands? Would Emma and Noah ever really understand sacrifice? It crushed her every time she slipped into that dark thought spiral. Juggling nursing shifts, tending to homework, and battling overdue bills created an invisible weight. The ache of wanting more for her children gnawed at her, while fears of inadequacy simmered just beneath the surface. She clenched her jaw, refusing to let anyone see her wavering resolve. Before the swirling chaos in her mind could overwhelm her, she caught movement out of the corner of her eye. He was tall and dressed casually, yet there was something striking about him. Jack, a man whose aura hinted at once being at the pinnacle of success in a corner office, watching her intently. Fighting against an instinct to shy away, Sarah felt an unshakable pull, though she couldn't place why. "Excuse me," he said, his voice unexpected and gentle, "I couldn't help but notice your grocery list." The warmth in his gaze accompanied an aura of compassion that left her momentarily flustered. He introduced himself, and in that moment, her heart raced for an entirely different reason. When he revealed his past, an ex-billionaire fallen from grace, it stirred something deep within her, a mix of pity and intrigue. "No, that's not," she started, speech still caught in disbelief when he offered her an inexplicable hand. "I want to help you and your kids. Please, consider this a gift." He handed her a check made out for $500,000, eyes earnest yet filled with a strange sadness. Pride surged in her chest, coupled with an avalanche of insecurity. How could she accept charity? Her heart thudded against her ribs as she fought to process the weight of his offer. Abandoning her principles felt like falling into a void. Yet, what if this could alleviate the pain of endless bills? But then, would that make her weak? Before she could voice her protest, an old, tattered photograph slipped from her purse, memories whispering from her father's smile. She gasped, a fleeting glance revealing his legacy etched in manual labor and resilience. Who was she, really? Could she reshape her understanding of what success looked like for her family? Those haunting questions crowded her mind. Jack's offer lingered in the air, thick and tantalizing, threatening to undo everything she knew about herself. As the tension grew taut, Sarah stood at the precipice of a decision that could alter everything, with every beat of her heart filling the space between hope and despair. Would she hang on to her pride, or dare to embrace the unexpected? The atmosphere buzzed with unresolved potential, and the unease remained palpable, leaving a chasm wide open for self-discovery as she faced the choice that could define her family's future. The check trembled slightly in her grasp, and Sarah felt the weight of it pulling against her spirit, an anchor tethered to unfamiliar waters. Her mind raced through the ramifications of accepting a gift of such magnitude. Would it brand her as dependent, a woman who couldn't make her own way? Or could it be the lifeline she desperately needed? Jack's eyes were searching, weighing her response with an intensity that made her stomach knot. She wanted to scream, to lay bare all her fears and aspirations right here in the cereal aisle. With every hesitation, her thoughts cascaded involuntarily: the mortgage due, the kids' tuition looming, the perpetual cycle of financial worry that encased her. "Think about it," Jack urged softly, as if sensing her internal struggle. "You could invest in a future for your children, a chance at a real change." A part of her recoiled against the temptation, the idea that prosperity could be achieved at the expense of her pride. But the practicality of the situation clawed at her. The idea of breathing room, the ability to finally exhale, was intoxicating. Emma and Noah came to mind, their sweet smiles, their aspirations, untainted by edges of stress and anxiety. With a shaking hand, she placed the check back in Jack's hands. I can't take this," she said, her voice a fragile whisper of defiance. "I have to find a way on my own." She turned away, but regret gushed through her like a flood. For a moment, silence enveloped them, strained and heavy. Then, Jack stepped closer. "That's exactly what I admire about you. But sometimes real strength comes from accepting help when you need it." His words hovered in the air and pushed against her defensive walls. Frustrated, Sarah gazed into the cart filled with her mundane grocery list. Here she stood amid frozen snacks and canned goods, feeling anything but exceptional. What was she to become? With the weight of her upbringing, a legacy of unyielding determination against adversity tugging at her, she longed for the kind of stability her father had built through hard work. "I appreciate your kindness," she said, her voice steadier now, "but isn't there a better way? I could work for it, help you in some way." Jack's expression softened as he regarded her. "You don't need to prove yourself to me, Sarah. You are already strong." His gaze was not condescending, but rather filled with an understanding she hadn't expected. It made her feel seen and, strangely, at ease. They stood together in a moment that blurred the urgency of the bustling grocery store, both acutely aware of an invisible connection, two souls in search of something deeper. In that silence, buried truths stirred within her. She had spent so much time categorizing herself under labels: single mom, nurse, survivor. But what if she could reinvent her perspective? What would it mean to shift from survival to potential? "Look," Jack said, breaking her reverie, "I'm not expecting anything in return. Just think of it as an opportunity. A chance to create something that helps you thrive." Thrive, the word lingered on her tongue, foreign yet mesmerizing. The sheer audacity of it felt exhilarating. Sarah's mind raced with calculations, possibilities forming intricate webs. New skills, perhaps a side job she had dreamed of but never pursued. All the while, doubts and insecurities threatened to snuff out that flickering hope. Could she really step into a version of herself that dared to aim higher? "I need time," she finally said, exhaling as a sense of resolve washed over her. "But I'll consider it." Jack nodded, the corner of his mouth hinting at a smile that held promise. "That's all I ask." As she turned to navigate the store again, the familiar sounds of canned goods clattering and children laughing hovered above her thoughts. Introspection mingled with purpose. She could feel the stirring of ambition within, a latent fire igniting. What else could she uncover about herself? As they approached the checkout, Sarah's mind was still tangled with decisions yet unmade. This might be the catalyst she needed, a stepping stone. Slipping into her consciousness. The weight of Jack's offer clung to her, but it was not just about the money, it was an invitation for change. Subtle whispers began to formulate plans beyond the mundane routines of motherhood. What if this could be the spark she needed to shift the narrative of her life? Her heart quickened at the thought, could she really transition from survival to thriving? But just as the light of optimism began to shine through the cracks of her uncertainty, a sudden commotion erupted near the entrance of the store, snapping her back to the present. She froze, scanning the scene. What was happening? The upheaval beckoned a confrontation she hadn't anticipated. With a profound sense of foreboding, Sarah felt her decisions shifting once again, the universe conspiring to unveil truths she had yet to discover. Sarah's heart raced as she forced her gaze toward the entrance, a swirl of anxiety clawing at her throat. The unsettling chatter of concerned voices carried over the hum of the store. People were moving, shifting out of the way, and she realized a man was shouting his furious words cutting through the air like a knife. "Get out of my way. You don't know what you're doing." The man's tone was a mixture of desperation and fury, setting off alarms in her mind. She instinctively stepped closer to Jack, her sense of safety tethered to his calm presence beside her. Both curiosity and fear surged within her. Was this the disruptive force meant to jolt her out of her comfort zone? Jack's expression shifted from one of interest to concern. "Let us move out of the way," he suggested softly, but the words barely registered. Something deep within Sarah wanted to confront whatever was brewing outside her mundane routine. This sparked an impulsive desire to understand the world around her, to unravel the threads of fear that kept her firmly planted in the backdrop of her life. Just then, the man came into view. His face was flushed, eyes wide as if he had just escaped something uncontainable. Sarah's instinct was to look away, but her feet were rooted in place. What if this were a reflection of her own conflicts, a manifestation of the fears she had been avoiding? With a sudden push of determination, she stepped forward, breaking the spell of hesitation that had bound her. Ignoring Jack's gentle pull on her arm, she approached the man. "Sir, are you all right?" He paused, clearly taken aback by her singular focus amidst the chaos surrounding him. "Do I look all right?" he yelled, his voice cracking. "I've lost everything. And it's too late. Nothing matters anymore." In that moment, she recognized something she had often brushed aside: vulnerability. She had spent years defining herself by her struggles, but to see someone else's raw anguish felt both familiar and unsettling. "You're not alone," she said, her voice steadier than she felt, a surprising strength surfacing. "We all have dark moments. They don't define us." His eyes narrowed, skepticism mingling with a hint of gratitude. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Neither do I," Sarah admitted, her heartbeat drumming in her ears. "But I'm learning. I'm learning that the fight doesn't stop. It can't not when you have people who rely on you." Jack caught up, standing at her side with a protective air. "Let us get you some help," he said gently, exuding a calm that seemed to soften the man's tension. Sarah felt juxtaposed between her fiercely building ambition and the fragile dignity that this encounter brought forth. Moments later, store security arrived, swiftly taking control of the situation. The tension was dissipating, but Sarah's thoughts swirled with her own emerging struggles. She had stared down fear, however briefly, and she had not flinched. It stirred something awakening within her, a challenge to face the uncertainties in her own life with similar bravery. As the commotion settled, Sarah realized this public confrontation had demonstrated the possibility of reaching out, both to strangers and to herself. The man had needed her words, she had needed the experience. And in that, she could tap into something new, an understanding of her own power. "Things are chaotic right now, but they can be sorted," Jack said, eyeing her with newfound respect. "You were great back there." "Maybe," Sarah replied, the truth sinking in. "But it doesn't change everything. I still need to sort my life out, Jack." "Then let us start doing that," he encouraged. "Remember what I said about the opportunity? You can become more than what you think is possible." A part of her wanted to dismiss his enthusiasm, to retreat back to safety. Yet, the thought sparked an invigorating curiosity. What could she build from this moment of clarity? Who could she become? Determination flickered. She had to decide: could she reframe her identity, shake off her labels, and claim a new narrative for herself? As she turned to Jack, ready to discuss next steps, he suddenly received a message on his phone. His expression darkened as he read it, an ominous shift unsettling her anticipation. "What is it?" she asked, suddenly alert. "It's serious." "I need to go," he replied, the urgency in his voice unmistakable. "Go?" Confusion flooded her mind, implications flooding her thoughts. "Sarah, you might need to consider your own decision sooner than I thought." His words hung in the air like a challenge, lighting a fire of uncertainty but also possibility. "Let us talk later," he added, stepping away. As he departed, Sarah was left in the wake of this chaotic afternoon. The encounter had peeled back layers of her fears but had also illuminated the path forward. She could turn past beliefs into a newfound resilience, but what would her next move be? She glanced at Jack's retreating figure, feeling the stirrings of destiny interwoven with her aspirations. The weight of her choices began to loom larger than the man's outburst, hinting at a future still unwritten, an open space for possibilities that awaited her. What awaited her in the waiting silence of her own life? Could stepping into the unknown be the start of transforming into her true self? The moment Jack disappeared into the crowd, Sarah felt a rush of uncertainty surge within her. The cacophony of bustling shoppers faded to a murmur, drowned out by her racing thoughts. His parting words echoed ominously, inciting a mix of apprehension and intrigue. What did he mean by needing to consider her decisions? Had she inadvertently reached a threshold she had long avoided? She shook off the remnants of the encounter, taking a deep breath. Unfolding her personal grocery list felt trivial against the backdrop of her internal chaos, yet it was a tether to reality. But instead of crossing items off, she found herself writing a new line: "What do I really want for my life?" The question lingered, amplifying her sense of urgency. With a newfound resolve, Sarah decided to take that moment and sharpen it into clarity. She noticed a small table displaying self-help books in the corner of the store. Words like empowerment and transformation beckoned to her like sirens of promise. As she approached, the covers glimmered with hope. Encouraging quotes highlighted the struggles of others who had once felt lost. She hesitated, torn between the odd comfort of the familiar and the daunting task of self-discovery. Was it naive to think that a book could alter her path? Determined, Sarah picked up a book titled Reclaiming Your Life, A Guide to Empowerment. It felt heavy in her hands, not just with weight but with the potential it seemed to hold. The words that flared into her mind were not just a promise, they were a challenge. In a moment of impulsiveness, she decided to purchase it, telling herself that each step, however small, counted toward the transformation she sought. As she checked out, she caught a glimpse of her reflection in the glass display. A stranger stared back, weary but resolute. Who was she, and who could she become? A cascade of memories flitted through her mind: the feel of her children's hands in hers, the laughter looping through their home, and the shadows that often crept in when doubts chased her dreams away. She realized that life had been more than the fear of confrontation or routine. It was layered with responsibilities that were both weights and wings. Leaving the store, she clutched the book close, feeling the soft pressure of paper against her chest, a palpable reminder of commitment. She resolved that reading it wouldn't be the end, it would merely open doors. Breathing in the fresh air, she felt a flicker of independence ignite within. It was time to confront her own narrative, to rewrite her identity. Her phone buzzed again, jolting her back. A simple text from her sister appeared: "We need to talk." Anxiety washed over her, a sense of foreboding creeping in. What could that mean? It took everything in her not to recoil back into the discomfort of avoidance. The time had come to face, she murmured, unfinished, as if completing her own unspoken thought. What awaited her in that conversation? Was it more chaos, or an opportunity to connect with someone who understood her struggles? The idea both thrilled and terrified her. As she made her way toward her sister's house, she contemplated the bridges she would have to cross. She had taken a bold step in buying the book, a step toward branching out into uncertain territories. Yet, as the distance shrank to the familiar door, a part of her wrestled with doubt. What would this discussion unveil? Resolute to not falter in the face of fear, Sarah prepared herself mentally to weigh every word, as if it could tip the balance of her emerging identity. The evening air grew dense with anticipation, and Sarah felt the stirrings of potential crackle around her, an electric reminder that she was on the cusp of something transformative. But would she find the courage to show up fully for herself in this new chapter? Would her sister see the changes beginning to unfurl? The answers remained just out of reach as she knocked on the door, drawing breath for the conversation that loomed before her. What truths would this reunion reveal, and how would they mold the woman Sarah was learning to become? The door creaked open, revealing her sister, Mia, with a concerned expression that mirrored the apprehension swirling within Sarah. Without a greeting, they moved into the living room, a place once filled with laughter now heavy with the tension of unspoken words. "Thanks for coming," Mia said, her tone sharp, not quite welcoming. Sarah nodded, trying to mirror her sister's composure, but the weight of uncertainty pressed heavily on her chest. Mia gestured for Sarah to sit, and as they settled into the familiar furniture, Sarah realized that this was more than a casual conversation. It felt like a reckoning, a collision of past grievances and future possibilities. "I got your text," Sarah began, her voice trembling slightly, "and I wanted to talk, too. I've been thinking about a lot my life, where I'm heading." Each word felt like a step toward reclaiming her narrative. Mia's brows furrowed deeper, and she crossed her arms tightly. "That's good, but I'm worried about you. Are you sure you're ready for this change? You've been through so much." Her voice softened, revealing a protective instinct. Here it was an opportunity to share, to confront, but also to retreat back into the familiar cocoon of her sister's protective embrace. But Sarah had made a choice today. She bought the book, and she needed to show up for herself. "I'm trying, Mia. I bought a book to help me understand what I really want." A silence enveloped them, thick and uncomfortable. Mia shifted slightly, the tension shifting from concern to disbelief. "A book? You think that will solve everything? You can't just read your way into a new life, Sarah." The sting of her sister's words cut deep. Did Mia think this was just a whim? Sarah felt a spark of anger, a refusal to let Mia dismiss her effort so easily. "It's not just about the book. It's about wanting to step into a life that feels true to me. I can't keep living smaller just because it's safe." Mia's eyes flickered, confusion battling with a flicker of pride. "I just don't want you to get hurt. What happened with Dave? It's still fresh." And there it was, the shadow of her past lurking in the corners of the room. Dave's betrayal and the consequences that followed had woven a tapestry of fear around Sarah's dreams. But she wouldn't allow that to hold her hostage anymore. "I know, but I can't let fear dictate my choices. I want to be more than just a mother. I want to discover who I really am." As Sarah's voice rose in conviction, a realization began to crystallize. They weren't merely discussing her transformation, this was a reflection of their relationship. Mia, with her protective instincts, was a constant reminder of what Sarah thought she had to sacrifice, the pursuit of her own identity for the safety of family. Mia leaned forward, the lines on her face deepening, as if she realized the gravity of Sarah's words. "I didn't know you felt trapped," she said softly. The honesty crackled in the air between them. "I didn't either until recently," Sarah admitted. "But this is my moment, and I need you to see me not just the grandmother or the past. I want to let the fear of failure stop me anymore." A shared silence passed, but it was charged with a new energy and understanding formed at a profound level. Sarah could almost feel the walls between them beginning to tremble, yet, just as hope sparked in the air, a jagged thought tugged at Sarah's mind. Was Mia truly ready to accept this transformed version of her sister? The potential for judgment hung like a cloud over their budding conversation. Mia hesitated, her expressions playing between support and uncertainty. What if it doesn't go as planned? The future felt vast and uncertain, the leap was terrifying. "Then I'll learn and adjust. But I have to try." As the words echoed in the room, an unexpected vulnerability washed over Sarah. Courage coursed through her veins, but shadows of doubt lurked around the edges. Would she truly be able to embrace this change? The air thickened with the question, how could she convince not just Mia, but herself, that she was indeed capable of stepping beyond the boundaries assigned to her? Her sister had the power to either uplift or anchor her back in insecurity. Just then, the flickering hallway light cut through the heavy atmosphere, illuminating possibilities. "Mia, please. I need your support now more than ever." But as her sister's conflicted response loomed ahead, Sarah braced for the impact. A decision awaited, one that would either propel her forward or push her back into shadows. What would Mia decide, and how could one answer redefine them both? Mia took a deep breath, her hesitation palpable in the air. Sarah could almost hear the gears turning in her sister's mind, weighing the ramifications of her words. They held a fragile moment, suspended between fear and hope, the future hanging in the balance. "Sarah," Mia finally said, her voice steadier, "you've always been the one to play it safe. This is a departure from that. Are you really ready to invest in yourself?" It wasn't just a question, it was a challenge. A challenge that chipped away at the layers of doubt Sarah was trying to peel off. The truth hit Sarah like a cold splash of water. She had always kept her ambitions tucked away, fearing the fallout. But her resolve was rising, stoked by the fire of that emotional conversation. "I'm done waiting for permission," Sarah said, her tone stronger, bolder. "I want more for myself and for the kids. They deserve a mother who isn't just surviving but is living." Each word surged with an undercurrent of defiance and assertion of identity long buried under expectations. Mia softened her posture, nodding slowly, but the skepticism didn't fully fade from her eyes. "I want to believe in your journey, I do. Just promise me you'll think it through. This isn't just about the book you bought." It was as if Mia was holding a mirror to Sarah's own confusion. Could self-discovery really be as simplistic as reading a book? But Sarah didn't need to know all the answers now, she needed to start the journey, whatever that meant. "I will. But I need to take the first step." An unfamiliar sense of clarity enveloped her, painting a picture of what taking that step could look like. There was a world unfolding beyond the living room walls, a universe ripe for her exploration. To seize that potential, she had to navigate through the uncertainty and self-doubt. "Maybe I should." Sarah paused, an idea blossoming. "Maybe I should write down what I really want, what's been bubbling under the surface." Mia arched an eyebrow, curiosity peaking. "Write it down? What do you mean?" "I mean, list out my desires, my goals, no matter how absurd they seem," Sarah explained. "It's like unearthing buried treasure. I need to look at it, own it." Mia's face revealed a hint of intrigue mixed with doubt, but the air felt lighter. "Okay, but that sounds terrifying." "It is," Sarah admitted, acknowledging the fear simmering beneath the excitement. "But isn't that the point? If I avoid confrontation with my dreams, I'm just keeping myself in this box." The conversation shifted the dynamic between them, creating space for possibility. Sarah's thoughts began to race as she envisioned her list, a compilation of aspirations that reached from simple joys to significant life changes. Would she dare to write down what she truly wanted? As the gravity of the moment enveloped her, Sarah realized there was more at stake than just herself. Each goal reflected a legacy she wanted to create for her children, a foundation built on authenticity rather than compromise. This would take courage, but she was done letting fear dictate her actions. Yet, in the corners of her mind, a flicker of doubt emerged. What if her ambitions sounded foolish? What if Mia's concern transformed into rebuke instead of support? The potential for vulnerability lingered like quicksand. "Here's to new beginnings," Sarah said, chuckling nervously, trying to cast aside the tightening grip of anxiety. "I'll start the list tonight. It'll be a first step." Mia shifted, her expression thoughtful. "I'd like to see it, you know. Share it with me when you're ready." A single spark ignited in Sarah, a moment of connection, a hint of understanding forming between them. "I will," she affirmed, each word a stitch in the fabric of their evolving relationship. As the conversation meandered into lighter topics, a stirring sensation pulsed through Sarah. It felt exhilarating, a wave of courage swelling within her. She wasn't merely contemplating change, she was preparing to unleash the power of intention into her life. But as her sister's voice faded into the background, a tantalizing thought engulfed her. What would her list truly unveil? And what would her renewed pursuit mean for her future and Mia's perception of her? With determination bubbling just beneath the surface, Sarah could feel the beginning of a journey that would ripple beyond the confines of their living room. She knew one thing for sure: the next step was approaching, and with it, the potential to redefine her existence entirely. What awaited her on that list, and how would it transform her life, was yet to be discovered. As night fell, Sarah settled into the familiar warmth of her home, but within that warmth flickered the promise of change. The soft glow from the lamp beside her couch illuminated an empty notebook, its pristine pages both inviting and daunting. Tonight marked the beginning of her self-exploration, a confrontation with years of silence and resignation. She picked up a pen, her fingers trembling slightly, and drew a deep breath to quiet the buzzing in her mind. What did she truly desire? The question felt monumental, like standing at the edge of a vast precipice. "Write it down," she whispered to herself, words palpable in the stillness. Sarah paused, stealing a glance at her kids asleep upstairs. They had a mother who put their needs above her ambitions. What impact would her aspirations have on their futures? Would she be teaching them resilience or recklessness? Determined, she forced her fears aside and started with an innocuous goal. Trip to the beach. It seemed so simple, yet it was the first tone in a symphony she had neglected for far too long. Next, she scribbled start a blog, a digital diary where she could carve her thoughts into existence. With every stroke of the pen, she felt a layer of herself being unveiled, slowly replacing doubt with conviction. Some items came easily: pursue art, join a writing group, volunteer at the school. These felt reflective of the version of her that had been locked away, awaiting liberation. Yet, as she delved deeper into the pages, ideas became more intricate: write a book about parenting, start a support network for single moms. These bold declarations sent her heart racing. Each word was a confession, stripping down the veil of complacency she had worn for years. But just as quickly as excitement bubbled within her, the doubts crept in again. What if her aspirations weren't good enough? What if they failed to resonate? Shush, she chided herself, regretting the intrusion of doubt. She couldn't afford to let old tapes replay. Instead, she drew a long line on the page, marking a boundary between her past self and the emerging trailblazer, one that would no longer shy away from aspirations simply because they seemed unattainable. With renewed fervor, she wrote, "Teach the kids about passion and resilience." That resonated within her deeply. She wanted her children to see their mother chasing her dreams, tackling challenges head-on rather than languishing in mediocrity. The list wasn't just for her, it was for them. As the ink dried, Sarah allowed herself a moment of reflection. She wasn't merely listing dreams, she was creating a vision, a directional compass to navigate her future. There was exhilaration in this act of revelation. She found power nestled in vulnerability, and for the first time in years, Sarah felt that she was reclaiming her narrative. Just then, her phone buzzed on the table, breaking her reverie. It was a message alert from an unknown number. Intrigued, she hesitated before opening it, a gut feeling urging caution. The content caught her breath. "You have no idea what's coming your way. I believe in you." A friend. Who was this mysterious supporter? It felt strangely serendipitous, yet enough to churn uncertainty back into her stomach. Was her journey already drawing unseen allies into her life? Sarah sat back, heart pounding at the intersection of curiosity and trepidation. This newfound ambition was a thrill, but the implications of confronting both her desires and this puzzling message unraveled a new layer of complexity. What awaited in the shadows beyond her dreams? And how would this unidentified ally influence her path forward? Morning light filtered through the curtains, casting a warm glow onto the pages of Sarah's notebook. The previous night's revelations echoed in her mind as she prepared breakfast, her heart still thrumming with excitement and uncertainty. Each item she placed on the table, the bowls, the cereal, the milk, felt emblematic of the choices she was making, the path she was forging toward a more authentic self. After sending her kids off to school, she returned to her notebook, inhaling the scent of freshly brewed coffee as she sat down. The blank pages awaited her like an open field beckoning a runner to take their first stride. Inspired by the mysterious message from the night before, Sarah decided to explore the idea of connection and support. What if this ally wasn't just a figment of her imagination but a real opportunity waiting to unfold? With a newfound determination, she introduced a line item to her list: network and connect with other single moms. It felt vital, transformative even. She envisioned a small community where mothers gathered, shared their experiences, and celebrated milestones, no matter how small. Each stroke of her pen felt powerful, as if she were planting seeds of potential, yet the realism of her ambition stirred a tiny voice in her mind. Who was she to lead such a group? Could she truly create a safe space for others when she felt so uncertain herself? The ideations battled in her mind, fueled by doubt, but she pushed those feelings aside. "I won't know without trying," she declared, firming up her resolve. As the day progressed, Sarah found herself spiraling into deeper introspection during her mundane tasks. Underneath each chore was the clamor of her desires, begging for a platform. While folding laundry, she caught a glimpse of the painting supplies gathering dust in the closet, a reminder of her own creativity that lay dormant. Another idea struck her: take an art class. It wasn't simply about personal enjoyment, it was about rediscovering herself in the act of creation. Her momentum soared as she added more to her list, forging a bridge between her inner world and her external actions. Write regularly, she penned with conviction. Writing had always been a refuge, a sacred space where her thoughts could flow freely. A blog to express experiences and connect with others felt like a natural next step, not only for her but to inspire others on similar journeys. Later that afternoon, Sarah sat at a nearby park, doing research on local art classes. The sun warmed her face as she scrolled through her phone. Each click resonated with the heartbeat of her new life. Instead of scrolling idly through social media, she sought genuine inspiration, artistic expressions that could translate into her own. She could feel that she was not merely standing on the precipice anymore, she was ready to leap. But as she opened yet another browser tab to learn about local single mom meetups, she stumbled upon a forum discussing personal reinvention. A pang of trepidation flickered within her. What if she lacked the skills to connect with others? What if no one showed up to her gatherings? It was a familiar inner dialogue that drummed up insecurity. "Stop," she whispered to herself. The trembling pen had transformed into a tool of empowerment, but it was still her choice whether to embrace that power. Surely, even if she stumbled, her efforts might inspire someday. The fear stiffened in her throat, demanding acknowledgement. Biting her lip, Sarah formulated a new task: prepare an opening speech on resilience. The idea of standing in front of others and expressing her journey filled her with both fear and exhilaration. Would she show her children, through her example, that growth comes from confronting the discomfort of vulnerability? Just as she leaned into her commitment, her phone buzzed again, the same unknown number. Heart racing, she hesitated for a second time before clicking open the message, feeling as though the universe was pulling her towards something unforeseen. The text read, "You are not alone. I'm here. Let us talk." A shiver ran down her spine, aching excitement coursing through her veins. As apprehension wove tight around her spirit, a small ember of hope sparked brighter. Who was this friend? What adventures awaited as she opened herself to others? This journey forward was proving to be as unpredictable as it was exhilarating. The crossroads of her ambitions had converged. She could sense something monumental simmering just beneath the surface. Was she truly prepared to embrace both the exuberance and discomfort of the life changes ahead? The suspense mingled with excitement as Sarah stared at her phone, the screen lighting up her face with the unknown. Who was reaching out? And why did their message strike a haunting yet comforting chord within her? The anticipation was electric, igniting a flame of curiosity that propelled her forward. She inhaled deeply, trying to quell the whirlwind of questions racing through her mind. Setting aside her initial doubts, Sarah quickly typed a response. "I would love to talk. When are you available?" Her fingers trembled slightly, the weight of the potential meeting pressing on her. What would they discuss? Would they truly become part of her journey in a significant way? As she hit send, her eyes drifted back to her notebook, filled with hopes and plans. The ink on the page felt both familiar and daunting. Could all these ideas, these aspirations, truly manifest into reality? Confronted with her unyielding doubts, Sarah closed her eyes for a moment, realizing she was at a crossroads. She could either hinge her identity upon the opinions of others or take command of her trajectory. The thought of potential rejection sent a shiver through her, but a stronger flame of determination burned brighter. She glanced at the laundry piled high beside her, each piece symbolizing the burden of her past. "This is my reset," she whispered to herself, feeling the syllables echo through her being. Instead of avoiding what lay ahead, she would embrace it, sketching her route with purposeful decisions, one stroke at a time. With renewed vigor, she returned to her research, this time focusing on artistic avenues she had previously overlooked. After multiple clicks, she found a local art school offering classes tailored for adults seeking to rekindle their artistic skills. An involuntary smile crept across her face. Envisioning herself immersed in colors and canvases, she felt the pulse of creativity calling her home. That evening, after the kids had settled in, she sat at the kitchen table and dove into an exploration of art techniques. Paints, brushes, and inspiration filled her mind like a vibrant kaleidoscope. Each brushstroke she imagined became a tether, connecting her back to herself. Then, amidst the fervor of her renewed focus on art, a thought struck her. She needed to push through her discomfort in public speaking. In her mind, she formulated an outline for her speech on resilience, interweaving her personal history with contemplative lessons she had gathered through challenges. Each point she articulated became a powerful affirmation of her growth, but as the clock ticked late into the night, a wave of fatigue washed over her. Doubts crept back in, whispering remnants of her fears. Could she truly stand before others, exposing her raw self? What if her speech fell flat? Each question felt like a heavy weight, but with determination, she beckoned the fear forth. Stumbling wouldn't be a failure, it could be her path to growth. Earlier in her day, she had read an inspirational quote, "The only way to grow is to embrace discomfort." With renewed resolve, she penned this reminder on a sticky note and affixed it to her monitor. It felt like a battle standard, an assertion of her own burgeoning courage. As the evening wore on, her phone chimed again. The familiar number was back, sending her heart racing for the third time that day. "Are you ready to meet? Tomorrow at noon?" It read. Her heart skipped a beat. The urgency of the message struck her like a thunderbolt. The proposition felt heavy and significant, a stark contrast to her casual plans with art classes. Could she afford to take this leap into the unknown, and what might that meeting mean for the empowerment she sought? The path Sarah envisioned was no longer just a series of carefully laid out plans, it had begun to pulse with life, threatening to burst forth at any moment. She glanced at the notebook, its pages now filled, brimming with dreams both whimsical and apprehensive. What awaited her in this conversation? Amidst the rush of potential outcomes, she knew the meeting was a pivotal point. For once, she wouldn't shy away. What stories will unfold? She mused, her imagination igniting with possibilities that felt just within reach. Would it open doors she never anticipated or lead her down an unexpected path steeped in resilience? Nervous anticipation twisted in her stomach, beckoning her for action. Sarah was not merely participating in her life anymore, she was poised for a transformation that promised to upend everything she once knew. And as she considered the impending conversation, she realized that the world beyond her personal sphere was moving, ever revving like a dormant engine, waiting for her to ignite it. The moment of truth was fast approaching. Could she truly navigate the impact of that encounter and emerge even stronger? As the clock struck noon, Sarah found herself standing outside the quaint cafe where she was to meet the mysterious ally. Her heart raced with a blend of trepidation and excitement. It felt like stepping onto a stage, a decisive moment to transition from dreams scribbled on a page into tangible reality. After weeks of reflection and personal exploration, she had arrived at this pivotal crossroads, an opportunity to step outside of her comfort zone fully. Entering the cafe, the familiar aroma of coffee flooded her senses. She spotted a table in the corner and saw a woman sitting there, her demeanor calm yet undeniably warm. "You must be Sarah," the woman greeted, her smile radiating an air of support that almost disarmed Sarah's nerves. "I'm Clara. I felt you'd appreciate a face-to-face conversation after those messages." Feeling an instant connection, Sarah took a seat, the weight of months of solitude lifting slightly. Clara's presence was an anchor, a reassurance in the unknown waters of growth Sarah was navigating. "Thank you for reaching out. I was intrigued by your message," Sarah began, nervously tracing the rim of her coffee cup. Clara leaned in, her curiosity palpable. "I believe in your vision, Sarah. You mentioned wanting to create a space for single moms, a community where sharing is not just encouraged but celebrated. Implementing change is powerful." The affirmation infused a surge of confidence within Sarah. She had been caught in spirals of doubt, but here was someone who saw value in her ambitions, someone willing to stand alongside her. "Honestly, I've feared that no one would show up, that I would fail," Sarah admitted, the honesty surprising even herself. She expected judgment but instead met Clara's understanding gaze. "Failing is part of the process," Clara replied, her tone steady but encouraging. "What matters is how you choose to rise from it. Remember, the uncertainty you feel is shared by many. Embracing discomfort leads to growth, it's a bridge to authenticity." Clara's words resonated deeply, reverberating within Sarah's quest for self-acceptance. "I've spent so many years buried under my responsibilities as a mom and a nurse, often sidelining my dreams and dismissing them as frivolous," Sarah confessed. "But I want more for myself and for my children." Clara smiled knowingly. "Then let us turn your ideas into action. There are local resources, support networks that can help you organize meetups. You can host discussions, workshops, share your journey. People will show up when they feel seen." The vision unfolded in front of Sarah like a blooming flower, and every new idea Clara shared only stoked the fire of Sarah's ambition. The fears that once twisted her stomach began to transform into a cautious optimism. Each exchange carved away the boundless worry that had long chained her spirit. Clara reached across the table, placing her hand gently on Sarah's. "You're capable of creating something beautiful, a powerful community that embodies resilience and support." The meeting progressed, turning from aspirations into strategies that ignited Sarah's enthusiasm. They exchanged ideas, and Clara provided insights, revealing opportunities Sarah hadn't even considered. Together, they sketched out preliminary plans, a flyer for her first meetup, a list of potential topics, even ideas for local partnerships. With Clara's unwavering support, Sarah felt the tendrils of self-doubt loosening their grip. As they concluded their conversation, Clara said, "You're ready for this, Sarah. People will resonate with your story." They'll walk away inspired. It wasn't just encouragement, it was confirmation of the journey Sarah was choosing to embark upon. Once outside, Sarah felt lighter than she had in years. The sun bathed her in warmth, igniting a kind of belief she had nearly forgotten. With her notebook in hand, filled with ideas and fresh connections, she stepped onto the path of change. The transformation wasn't just about newfound ambition but also a profound shift within her perception. Each word, each encounter, compounded into a force propelling her forward. Now home, she glanced around, her children's laughter echoing in the background. They were her passion, her reason, and now she realized that pursuing her dreams was just as vital for them. The environment she was cultivating could teach Emma and Noah the value of courage and authenticity, traits she had longed to pass on but had not fully embraced herself. Sarah approached her notebook and added a new goal: create a community of resilience. As the days turned into weeks, each item on her list began to take shape. Classes were enrolled in, meetup plans were initiated, and effortlessly, she built networks she once thought were out of reach. The emotions of doubt became stepping stones toward a greater understanding of herself. Months later, Sarah successfully hosted her first gathering of single mothers. The cafe buzzed with lively conversations, shared stories, and laughter that resonated with honesty and vulnerability. As she stood before them, Sarah spoke about the beauty of resilience, of fighting for dreams, and the sheer strength that comes when one embraces their authenticity. She left the event feeling accomplished and liberated, her initial fears transformed into a realization. She was not just a single mother, she was a leader, a force of nature. The difference between the woman who walked into that cafe and the one who exited was monumental. Sarah learned sovereignty over her life, crafting it with intention and purpose. She was ready to steer her family towards a future filled with promise, recognizing that no longer would she allow fears to dictate her narrative. In the fullness of her newfound confidence, Sarah understood the importance of taking action. Her journey had just begun, but she was finally on the path where dreams and action intertwined, embracing the radiant process of discovery, not just for herself but for the generations to come. Sarah felt gratitude envelop her as she reflected on her journey, acknowledging both her challenges and triumphs as integral to her rebirth. It became crystal clear that courage to embrace her truth would lead to not just personal growth but a legacy of strength her children would inherit. Now, more than ever, Sarah stood firm in her commitment to self-discovery. The choices, the actions taken, and the friendships forged were no longer separate elements of life, they were a unified tapestry of her existence, each thread entwined with strength, resilience, and vibrant potential. With her purpose clearer than ever, she realized it was time to share this transformative process with others and view her journey not just as a tale of individual struggle but as a beacon shining hope for those searching for their way to empowerment. If you resonate with this powerful story of transformation and growth, don't wait even one more second. You need to subscribe now to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep these inspiring narratives alive. Comment below your reactions and theories about this uplifting conclusion, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformative journey of resilience and strength. Show your support, and be part of our blossoming community.